Okay, so today's training is a really important training. And if you've got a pen and pad to hand, I think it's probably worth grabbing hold that pen and pad and taking notes, because I think this will help you in the long run. Now, I want to start this training with 3 stories. Okay, 3 stories to begin with. You may have heard these stories before, maybe not, I don't know. The first one is about elephants, how they train elephants. Why don't elephants run away in the circus? So what they do is they take the elephant when it is a baby and they tie it to a post in the ground using a chain. And when that baby elephant tries to run away or tries to break free, it can't do it and it gets hurt. It hurts its neck or it hurts its ankle, however it's tied up. It hurts the elephant every time it tries to break free. And as the elephant grows up, they replace it with a bigger stake and a bigger chain. And the elephant still can't run away. By the time the elephant has grown up, it has learned that it cannot break free from the chain or the stake. So it stops trying. So now all they need is a stake in the ground and a piece of rope. And the elephant never tries to break free because it learned when it was young that it cannot break free. Now, the reality is that the elephant is huge and powerful. And actually, if it really tried, it could break free now because it's only a piece of rope and a wooden stake in the ground. But it believes that it can't because of past experience, because of what it learned when it was growing up. Now, this is the story of fleas. Again, a story you may have heard before, maybe not. They took fleas and they put them in a jar. Now, fleas can jump, I don't know, 1 meter, 2 meters up into the air. They have extremely strong legs and they can jump very, very high, and they can jump long distances. So when they put the fleas in the jar without the lid, the fleas would jump out of the jar and escape. But then when they put the lid on the jar, every time the fleas would jump, they would bang on the jar, on the lid of the jar. After a period of time, what they discovered was that the fleas would only jump to a height just below the lid of the jar, so that they never hit the lid of the jar again, so that they could only jump so high. So then what they discovered is when they took the lid off the jar, the fleas never escaped because they had been trained to believe that there was a ceiling on where they could jump. So they stopped trying. They only ever jumped to just below the height of the jar lid, even though the lid wasn't there anymore. This was an experiment that they did with monkeys. They put 5 monkeys in a cage with a ladder. On the top of the ladder, they put bananas. When one of the monkeys climbed up to get the bananas, they would spray the other 4 monkeys with water. And those monkeys, over time, every time a monkey went up the ladder, they would spray the other 4 monkeys. Over time, when a monkey then tried to climb the ladder, the other 4 monkeys would grab that monkey and drag him off the ladder. And each time a monkey tried to climb the ladder, the other 4 got sprayed with water and they would drag the monkey off. Now, as the experiment progressed, they would take out the monkey that didn't get sprayed. And slowly they would replace all of the monkeys and they would put in a new monkey. That new monkey would climb the ladder and the other 4 monkeys would pull that monkey down. And it got to the point that if a monkey tried to climb the ladder, the other 4 monkeys wouldn't just pull that monkey off of the ladder. They would physically beat that monkey for trying to climb the ladder. Eventually, they'd replaced all of the monkeys, and no monkey ever climbed the ladder to get the bananas. And even when they did, if they did try to climb the ladder, if they would still be pulled off of the ladder by the other monkeys, even though nobody was spraying them with water, because they had been taught to believe that if someone climbs the ladder, they would feel pain or they would suffer a consequence. So eventually, all of the monkeys in the cage had been trained, even though none of them had been sprayed with water, even once. They just learned that if anybody climbed the ladder, that they should beat them up. Each one of these creatures had been taught a ceiling. They had been trained to believe one thing that's true when it really wasn't. Now, what's this called? When I used to work in the prison, we were trained on something called conditioning. And that's what this is. This is called conditioning, where you are training somebody to give a certain response to a certain input. And it's called conditioning. So what do all of these have in common? And it is self-limiting beliefs. Self-limiting beliefs are things that hold you back, things that stop you making progress, things that stop you achieving your goals, things that keep you stuck. Self-limiting beliefs are things that will hold you stuck in your current situation. No matter how unhappy you are, your belief system is preventing you from moving into a happier place, into a more successful place. Your self-limiting beliefs are making you leave opportunity behind, even avoid taking opportunities, and they make you break commitments. Even when you are in a position where you go, yes, I'm going to do this, because you have a self-limiting belief, you reach a certain point and believe, I can't succeed anymore, or I can't do anymore, or I can't go any further. So your self-limiting beliefs are keeping you stuck. So today's training is about facing the shadow, the devil within. So facing the shadow within. I want you to look at this image. What does it make you feel? Tell me what you're feeling. What do you think about when you see this image? When I look at this image, it makes me think of bad dreams. It makes me think of fear. It makes me think of nervousness. It makes me feel uneasy, edgy. It's a very disturbing image, isn't it? So today's training is all about fear and facing your fears. Jack Canfield said, everything that you want is on the other side of fear. So today we're going to help you to identify your fears and help you understand why fear can be a guide, a pointer to a path that you should take. Help you understand that there are tools to help you build courage, and how you can use daily mindset habits to overcome your fears. Now, common fears. A fear of not being enough. This is something I struggled with as a child. Not being good enough, not belonging. I'm sure that's something that many of us here have felt at one time or another in our life. Do I deserve this reward, or do I deserve this position, or do I deserve this promotion? Whatever it is, there's this inner fear inside us sometimes that makes us feel that we're not really good enough to receive what we've received. A fear of being judged. Again, this is something I struggled with massively in my younger years. And what does this mean, the fear of being judged? It means the fear of what other people will think of me. Or what will my parents think of me? What will my best friend think of me? What will my brother, what will my sister think of me? What will other people think of me? This is a huge fear for people, especially in the affiliate marketing industry. When it comes to talking to friends and family, we have this fear of, oh my God, how can I speak to my friends and family? What are they going to think of me when I tell them I'm doing this business? Which is crazy, because if you invested $150,000 in a normal traditional business, you wouldn't worry about what people think, and people wouldn't criticize you. People would be patting you on the shoulder for taking such a huge risk. They'd be saying to you, well done, amazing. Yet, because you can get involved in a business for $50, suddenly the perception is that it's not a real business. But we're living in a different day and age now. But this is a huge fear, the fear of what other people think of you. Now, for me, at this point in my life, and probably for the last 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years, I understood that actually I don't care what other people think of me, because nobody else is going to pay my bills. Nobody else is going to buy my daughter's clothes. Nobody else is going to pay for her clubs. Only me. So I have to do what I have to do. But fear of being judged is a big, big thing. The fear of success. That's huge. The fear of success, that doesn't seem like it's a real thing. How can that be possible? Why would anybody be afraid of success? And yet it is a fear. When you think about what your life could look like if you were successful, suddenly there's a fear of, well, how will I achieve it? How much work have I got to do to achieve it? What will I do once I have achieved it? Once I've achieved success, where do I go from there? How do I know how I'm going to succeed? How do I learn all of this stuff? So fear of success is a very real thing. The fear of the unknown. This is also a massive thing. The fear of the unknown. Why are people scared to walk into dark rooms? Because you don't know what's in there. Why are people scared to take an opportunity? Because they don't understand, or they don't know what that opportunity is going to look like. They don't know how they're going to achieve that opportunity. They don't know how they're going to learn all of the things that they need to learn. Yet some of the most successful people in the world have achieved things in industries that they knew nothing about. Richard Branson is one of the most famous of those. He started an airline company from nothing, knowing zero about the airline industry. He knew nothing about it. And in fact, he started the airline industry with zero money. He managed to convince, I think it was British Airways, he managed to convince them to rent him an aeroplane for a certain price, and that he didn't have to pay for the rent of that aeroplane for some time down the road, 6 months. Because it was an aeroplane that wasn't being used. So it was sitting there doing nothing. But he managed to convince them to rent him an aeroplane. He had no money. He had no experience, but he had a vision. But the fear of the unknown could have prevented him doing that. And then we would not have one of the biggest airline industries in the world. Fear is not the problem. Avoidance is. You are avoiding spending the time learning. You're avoiding doing the work. You're avoiding talking to people to learn what you need to learn. You are avoiding success. And a mindset shift is needed. With a new mindset, you'll achieve new results. So a mindset shift is needed urgently. If you really want success, it begins with a change of attitude, a change of mindset. Now, there's two sides to fear. We have destructive fear, which can paralyze you, keeps you small and stuck, will stop you making progress. It will stop you seeing what lies on the other side of fear. Because that journey between where you are now and success could be a short journey, it could be a long journey, but being overwhelmed with fear will stop you seeing what's up ahead. When I teach people to drive, one of the most important things I can teach them is to look all the way down the road, not just 20 feet in front of them. Because if they're only looking 20 feet in front of them, by the time they see the back of the bus, they've already hit the bus. So it is long-term sight, long-term vision that's needed. We have constructive fear. Now, this points you to the next level. It signals growth. If you think about it, what are the symptoms of fear? Anxiety, belly butterflies, nervousness, sweating. What does that sound like? What else? What other emotion do those symptoms show? Excitement. Excitement is the same emotion. Because when you're excited, your heart beats faster. You have butterflies in your belly. You feel nervous. You sweat. I can tell you, all my students, when they go in for a driving test, you can see that they're suffering from those symptoms. But we are interpreting it as fear. But in reality, it's excitement. Your brain doesn't distinguish from the two. It's how you interpret. So your sense of fear can actually be excitement for the future. So it's time to reframe fear, because fear is a signpost to your potential. What's it trying to teach me? Fear is a priceless education. It is the excitement of what lies ahead, of what you might achieve, of where you might end up, that will help push you forwards. What is fear? Is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Read that. Listen to that. When you're scared of something, what is it that you're really scared of? If it's the unknown, then you don't know. So what are you scared of? Of course, some things are reasonable to be scared of. If you've got a vicious dog scaring you, chasing you, you know if that dog catches you, it will bite you and hurt you. That's a reasonable fear. I don't want to jump from an aeroplane in a parachute because I know that parachute may not open. That's a reasonable fear. But if you're trying to be successful and you genuinely want to be successful, what is there to be scared of? Having lots of money? Having more holidays? Being able to buy a nicer car? Is that what you're scared of, really? Fear is just your imagination expecting the worst. And imagination is the key word in this. You are imagining the circumstances of fear. And fear is really an emotion to protect you from getting hurt. It's an emotion to protect your physical being, the fight or flight emotion. You can override your fear with goals. Set clear goals. Have a target. Without a goal, you're aimless. You're wandering around aimlessly. Imagine a game of football, English football, soccer. Imagine you've got 22 players, 11 on each side, and no goals. What's the purpose of the game? What are the players aiming for? They're just 22 men chasing a ball around the field with no purpose. So by having a clear goal of what you want to achieve can help you push through the fear. Imagine darts players or an archery competition, and you've got no archer's board and you've got no target. What are you aiming for? You're just shooting arrows into the air. Create a plan to achieve that goal. This can be a short-term plan, a medium-term plan, and a long-term plan. But you need a plan. The plan creates the pathway to that goal. That plan gives you a direction to walk. The goal is at the end of that path. But you've got to take daily action towards that goal. So that means that you need to set small targets along the way. Because if the goal is too big, the mind will perceive it as impossible. So if you've got in your mind, right, I want to make $10 million. So now I've got to go out and I've got to make $10 million. If you haven't achieved $10 million in a week from now, it feels like you failed. And that's not how you do that. That's not how you create goals and create the path. You create your overarching goal, but then you've got to have building blocks along that journey. So your short-term goal could be, in the next 6 months, I want to make $2,000. That's achievable, but it should stretch you a little bit. It shouldn't be too easy. If the goal is, I want to make $10 in the next 6 months, you could do that tomorrow. Once you've achieved it, now you can sit down and do nothing for the next 5 months and 29 days. So the goal should be reasonable for you to be able to achieve it, but it should stretch you out of your comfort zone just a little bit. So that every day you're taking action, daily action towards your goals. Recognize your achievements when you've achieved them, because every single step that you take, every single part of that goal you achieve is a step closer to your overarching goal. If you look at Jim Carrey, he's a good example of this. Jim Carrey had been trying to be an actor for years. And eventually he came to a point where he had to make a decision. Do I give up on my dream, or do I keep on trying? If I keep on trying, how long do I keep on trying for? So he made a decision. He wrote himself a check for $10 million. A check to himself for $10 million. And he put it in his wallet, and he kept that check in his pocket, and he carried it with him everywhere. And he dated it. And his goal was, if I haven't made $10 million by this date, then I'm going to give up and I'm going to go get a job. Now, every day he chased his dream to be an actor, doing audition after audition after audition, taking small roles. Every day he took a step closer to his journey without success, with no significant success. On the day that that check was due to expire, he was notified by his agent that he had won the role to play in Dumb and Dumber for $10 million. Had he have written that check for a day earlier, he may have given up and not bothered. And he may never have made that movie. And we would never have had some of the best comedy films of the last 20 years. So he had a goal. He had a time scale. And he took action every day towards that goal. Action is king. Remember what I said last week. Action is king. If you're not taking action, then why should you earn money? Why should you get paid? How can you be upset at not earning money when you haven't done anything to earn that money? If I don't get paid because I haven't been to work, because I haven't taught any students, who am I going to blame? Do I phone up the students and say to them, well, why haven't you paid me this week? I didn't turn up for work. Why should I get paid? The affiliate marketing space is no different. The products are irrelevant. It's about you. It's about you being willing to take action. It's about you willing to overcome your fears and take daily action towards your goal of financial freedom. Action will always be king. Courage is a muscle. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is feeling afraid and doing it anyway. Superman is not brave. He's invincible. He has no risk. He's got no skin in the game. If there's a building on fire, it doesn't matter. He can walk in there, take as much time as he likes, grab the dog, walk out of the building. There is no bravery involved because he has no fear, because he is invincible. But speak to your local fireman who has to wear all kinds of specialist equipment, who has to walk into that building knowing that at any moment the ceiling could drop down on top of them and kill them. Talk to your local police officer who has to go into a bar to break up a fight when both of those people, or the people that are fighting, could have weapons, could have guns. Speak to your military who have to go to war all around the world knowing they may never come back, but knowing they are fighting for a cause, knowing that they are fighting to create freedom. They are fighting to create safety, security for the people of the country they're fighting for. That's true bravery. Doing something when you're not afraid is not bravery. It's just doing something. Every time you face your fears, you get stronger. You gain confidence. You start to believe in yourself just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. You prove to yourself that you can achieve goals. The fact that you may not have achieved your long-term goal yet isn't important. It's the steps that you take that you achieve that are important. In a network marketing company I was in about 20 years ago, I heard a phrase which I've since read in a few books over the years, which I think is such an incredible statement. Shoot for the moon. If you miss, you still end up among the stars. And I love that because I think that's so important, because you may have your goal and you may not achieve your goal ever. You may not achieve the goal in the timeline that you want to achieve it. But all of the things that you achieve on that journey still leave you in a better place, still put you in a more successful place than you are now. Shoot for the moon. You may miss, but you still end up among the stars. This is a book that was a huge part of my life when I was part of Amway 30 years ago. Feel the fear and do it anyway. I highly recommend this book to everybody because this book contributed to the change in my mindset, in the way that I viewed the world, in the way that I viewed my place in the world, along with so many other books. Build up that fear muscle. Do one uncomfortable thing every day. That will help you get comfortable of just taking one step out of your comfort zone. So the next day you can take 1.5 steps or 2 steps out of your comfort zone. Celebrate those small wins. Every time you achieve one of your short-term goals, give yourself a pat on the back. Say to yourself, I did it. It was hard, but I did it. I stuck with it. I had the courage to stick with it. I had the courage to face that fear, and I overcame that fear. Speak to any of the psychologists. What do they do if you have a fear of spiders? They put a spider in your hand. What do they do if you have a fear of heights? They take you up to the highest height, but they don't do it straight away. They'll take you up to the first floor, help you get used to that, get familiar with that, then take you to the next floor and build your tolerance. It is only through facing fears that we grow. Track your progress so that you know when you've achieved something, so that you can celebrate that win. Tracking your progress is really important so that you know what you're achieving. You can be the lion or the lioness in your own story. You don't need to let other people dictate your future anymore. You don't need to let a boss tell you how much you can earn on a monthly, weekly, or daily basis. You don't need to let a boss tell you how many days off a week you can have, how many weeks holiday you can have a year, when you can take that holiday. You can be the lion that you deserve to be. Reprogram your mindset. Read positive mental attitude books. I can't tell you how important these books proved to me be in my life. When I joined Amway, I was not successful in Amway at all, not even a little bit, but I was only in my 20s. And I was in that company for just over a year. But I tell you, I wouldn't change that journey for a bit, because I learned, it introduced me into a world of self-development that helped me to grow as a person, to overcome the negative feelings I had against myself. It changed my entire perspective of my position in the world, who I was, my value in the world. I was not the person then that you see now, capable of doing trainings, capable of talking to people, capable of sharing opportunity, capable of having conversations with people. I was a deeply shy and scared person as a child. And I remember the day like it was yesterday where that moment turned around and enough was enough. And I decided to grow and become a different person. I completely reinvented myself. Telling you, if you could take a step back in time and go and see me when I was in my teenage years, you wouldn't recognize me today. You wouldn't believe it's the same person. And it was all through books, because remember, we didn't have the internet until the late 90s. So all we had was cassette tapes and books. I bought my cassette every month and I listened to that cassette. I read a book every month, sometimes 2 or 3 in a month, because some of them just really gripped me. And I would read for hours. These books changed my life. Say positive affirmations to yourself. You can overcome by these positive affirmations. Again, this is something I experienced myself. When I went through my first divorce, It was devastating to my life. It was devastating to me as a person. I felt worthless. I felt that I had no value. It took me 10 years to really get over it. And that's not an exaggeration. It took me nearly 10 years to get over that first divorce. But I did it by eventually realizing that if I was going to shake myself out of it, I wallowed for too long in my self-pity. And I realized that if I was going to get out of this system, out of this rut, I had to do it for myself. Every day when I was preparing for work, I used to look myself in the mirror and tell myself, I am good enough. I am worth it. I'm a good person. Every day I would do that. Act in spite of fear. Now, if I have a feeling of fear, I know it's time to push myself further. I don't step back. I don't step away from it. I know it's telling me I'm not really scared. I'm just excited about the next step of the journey. And if I don't know what that next step is, I take steps to find out, to learn, to understand. Record those positive affirmations. Play them to yourself in the car. When you're taking a bath, when you're preparing for work, play those affirmations to yourself. Remember, your mind will put out whatever you put in, just like a computer. If you feed your mind with rubbish, what do you expect it to put out? All it will put out is rubbish. Your brain when you're born, your brain is a blank slate. Just like a computer. When they create a computer, they put the memory in it, but it's an empty memory. It's not until they put in the operating system that it now has an idea of what its job is. And your brain is the same. Your childhood experiences will shape you. We are the sum of our childhood. But how long can we hold that against ourselves? Some of us had an amazing childhood. Some of us had a bad childhood. But at some point, you became an adult. At some point, you have to accept this was my past. It's time to let it go. It's time to move on. Again, that was the pivotal moment when I realized it was time to let go of my past and reinvent myself. You can only blame your past for so long, because eventually you become an adult where you make choices for yourself. So feed your brain. You just like a computer. If the computer gets overloaded with bad information, you can wipe the computer and reprogram it and start again. You can do the same with your brain. These books that I read literally reprogrammed me to be a better person, to be a more tolerant person, to be a kinder person. We have YouTube these days. In the modern age, there is unlimited information online that can help you. You can get all of the books that I read online. There are websites where you can buy the books very cheaply. There's even websites where some books you can even read them for free. But we have YouTube where there are millions and millions of videos from some of the most important and most popular speakers in the world, sharing their insights on how they became successful. You can create a new self-belief system so that you can have an I can do it attitude, an I can do it mindset. You can make excuses or you can make money. You cannot do both. Your fearless future. Now you understand that fear, you have a choice. You can hide from it and you can stay stuck where you are. You can stop yourself making progress. You can look at your goals and your vision, and always watch it from a distance, wondering, what if I'd have just done this? What if I'd have just done that? What if I'd have had the courage to just take the first step? Or you can partner with it. Success isn't always about greatness. It's about consistency. Consistent, hard work leads to success. Greatness will come. You do not need to be fearless. You just need to fear less. This is a book by an old mentor of mine. One of the old network marketing companies that I was in 22 years ago, was a UK company called Clean Easy. It was a retail company that sold household products. My upline was this man, a guy called John Webb. And this is John Webb. He was one of the most successful people within that company. He was earning around $8,000 to $10,000 every single month. And he wrote this book, Smash Your Fears, Live Your Dreams. And I'm telling you, it's an excellent book, full of useful advice, full of techniques that can help you overcome your fears. Remember, failure only exists when you stop trying and give up. Winners never quit, and quitters never win. Now, I'm going to finish with a short video. Now, this is one of my most favorite speakers. It's a guy called Les Brown. And I've read his book and I've watched many of his videos. He's an extremely powerful speaker. And I really hope that you enjoy this video. It's only 5 minutes, so I hope you enjoy it.
You can either live your dreams or live your fears. And I think the majority of people actually are not living their dreams, but are living their fears. So I want to ask you a question. What are your fears? What are you afraid of? What are you scared of? Because we all have fears, don't we? We all have something that's blocking us, that's holding us back. And as we begin to look at life, what we realize is that the reason that most people are not living out their true potential, are not doing all of the things that they would really like to do, is because of fear. Some people call fear false evidence or expectations appearing real. I'm reminded of the story of a guy that was living in an area where he had some new neighbors, and these neighbors had a bulldog. And when he came home every day, this bulldog used to chase him about a half a block from his house. Every day, he would have to streak home. I mean, he would just run. This bulldog would be right on his heels. And so he just got tired of that, because he would go home about a half a block away from home. He would look around for this bulldog, and he wouldn't see him. And he would go walking casually along, and this bulldog come out of nowhere, woo, 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 and start chasing him. He'd run home. So this one day, he just got tired. And so when the bulldog was running after him, he started running. He saw a rock, and he stopped to pick it up to throw at the bulldog. And when the bulldog got up on him, he started barking. He realized the bulldog didn't have any teeth in his mouth. Then he started chasing the bulldog. If you don't get all the way from it, because the most the bulldog could have done is gummy, you know. And so, you know what? Most people go through life running scared. Running scared from things that have no teeth in them, because they're false expectations appearing real. That, see, we're brilliant enough to scare ourselves to death. You realize that? There are some people actually who get a kick out of scaring themselves to death. I remember the last frightening movie I saw. It was The Exorcist. I will never forget. I was so frightened when I came home. I'll never forget. I drove in the driveway, and I had already called my former wife and said, listen, turn the lights on. I was coming in the driveway, and I was getting out of the car, and all of a sudden I couldn't get out. I started blowing my horn. I said, Madeline, they got me, they got me. She came to the kitchen and said, "Take your seatbelt loose, fool." I said, "Oh, okay. I was frightened out of my wits. But there are a lot of people who they get off on that. They love it. I'm a person, my brother is a paratrooper. My twin brother, he's in the military, career man. I would love to jump out of an airplane to parachute. I'm scared, though. I mean, I really admire my brother for that. I would really love to be macho man like that. What are the things that you fear that's been keeping you from living your dream? That's been keeping you from doing some things that you would like to do? Just think about those things. And how do we begin to handle that? Abraham Maslow said that life is about growth. And he said, you can either go back to your comfort zone, and there you won't find any growth, or you must be willing to go forward and face your fears again and again and again, because you're never going to have a fear-free existence. I mean, some fear is acceptable and legitimate. There are some things that you really should be afraid of. Now, you shouldn't allow it to immobilize you. You acknowledge it, you take it into account, and you carry yourself accordingly. There are times that we should proceed with caution. But it's the difference between being stopped by fear. It's the difference between having a fear and the fear having you. So what do? One, acknowledge it. And knowing that it's okay. Don't condemn yourself for being afraid. It's perfectly fine to have some fears. You acknowledge your fears, you embrace those fears, and then you move on. You act on whatever it is that you fear. Because once you embrace it, see, what you resist will persist. What you resist will persist. So one of the most important things is to begin to embrace your fear.
There you go. That's the end of the presentation. Let me stop recording.